Welcome to Next Gen Ultimate's coverage of the 2012 WIFDIF World Ultimate in Guts Championship. I'm Lou Burris. This afternoon we have the third and final installment of our Day 3 coverage featuring the 1-2 matchups in the Open Division. This game is number 3 Japan coming in with a 3-0 record in pool play versus number 6 Great Britain with a 2-0 record in pool play, fighting for first place in the C pool. With me is Chase Sparling-Beckley. Chase, tell us about this Great Britain team.
Well, this is a Great Britain team that historically has had a fair amount of success going back certainly to 2008. They took 4th place, losing in the 3-4 game to Japan.
By 2 points.
By 2 points, a narrow margin. They also lost to Japan in that same tournament in Vancouver in pool play by another narrow margin. But this team that we're going to see today coming into this tournament actually only has 5 returners from that 2008 squad.
And a lot of young talent.
And a lot of young talent. We're really going to be looking, in particular, young talent, Ollie Gordon, number 14. He was actually traveling last year with the Next Gen bus through the summer. Got a lot of great international competition against North American club teams, traveling all across the country, playing with other college superstars. In addition to their homegrown talent, GB has actually picked up another North American star, Jolien Dahl, number 60.
Dual citizen.
Dual citizen. He has parents from Great Britain, but he's really gained a lot of notoriety playing for Colorado Mama Bird, as well as then for Colorado's club team, Johnny Bravo, and now he's playing with Chain Lightning out of Atlanta, which is his hometown. So those two players really would be great players to watch. Young, lots of experience with the highest level Ultimate in North America, and they're certainly going to put on a show here today. One thing I think that's important to mention about GB is that they've been together. They're a true national team. They're from all over, and they've been together for quite some time. They've been practicing for 18 months. We should really expect to see them throw crisp offense, and then we're going to get a ton of looks. Spread, hoe, vertical. On defense, we're going to see a variety of different junks. We could see anything but the kitchen sink from this team.
And the Japanese, we watched them play on the first day against New Zealand. Feature a really lovely offense, kind of a chip strike offense, lots of handler motion, setting up the deep ball, long, flat throws, typically going to the weak side of the field. The Kiwis tried playing a lot of forced backhand, which was not particularly successful, so it will be interesting to see what Great Britain settles on as a good tool to use against this Japanese offense. The biggest thing for me in that New Zealand game is superstar Matsuno Masahiro. We didn't see him play at all. He was in running shoes. When we talked with the Japanese this afternoon about it, they were very guarded, almost secretive about whether he was injured, why they were keeping him out. And I just took that as a sign of how serious this Japanese team is about winning, that any and every advantage they have, they're going to hold on to that as best they can. Even a small one like why or why not, they'd play Matsuno. Very windy to begin. Using a similar outside-in pool that we saw earlier today. And a block right away from the Japanese.
Immediately.
Takahashi. Kurono. Kurono. Takahashi, it floats.
Great return
Schumacher's
defense.
there for the D. Japan had everything they wanted, and I think the wind got that throw away from them. Schumacher's size was able to make the difference.
And I think Schumacher felt a sense of urgency there. He really turned on the jets to pick up that D.
Fennell. Schumacher. Trap on the sideline by the Japanese.
And it looks like there's a call.
Really interesting defensive set here from the Japanese. Number 21, Genshima, is an easy 20 yards off of his man, number 8, Dathan. Protecting the strong side defenders against the Huck. Some switches underneath. McDowell, Schumacher going back to McDowell. Win causing another turnover. Shiba. Abe. Sasakawa. Genshima.
I think there's a stall called, but that was a really tight grab there
Yeah,
by the Japanese handler.
Genshima is fighting to squeeze that in there, and he's got Takahashi wide open for the dump.
Yeah, miscommunication. I'm not sure if that's the wind taking his words away.
I think that he wanted to go to Sasakawa. He saw that he felt like he could get it there and just never let go of that receiver, even though he had Takahashi open.
Well, in Japan, really, from that handler set, especially around the end zone, they're really an attack-first offense.
Yeah.
Those handlers want to get the disc up the line badly, sometimes at the detriment of possession.
Okay, Genshima, Sasakawa. A first-point timeout.
I think Japan really, both teams actually, but Japan in that situation, kind of sensing the urgency and the preciousness potentially of getting any points in the wind. And so with a short field situation, they really want to make sure.
And I don't think they were happy with what their
downfield set was looking like. I agree.
So at this timeout, we're going to take a short pause. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Next Gen Ultimate's coverage of the 2012 WIFDIF World Ultimate and Guts Championships. Early in a pool play matchup between Japan and Great Britain, the score is 0-0. Japan threatening for a breakdown win. It is really windy down on the field.
Yeah, it's howling out there, and you can see the flags around the field are really blowing. I think Japan takes that timeout, really sensing a sense of urgency, both about how close they are to the end zone here and trying to set the tone early with a break.
Genshima, Sasakawa, back to Genshima. Definitely going downwind here for the Japanese. Takahashi. Some nice switching poaches from Great Britain. Abe. Dropped by Kurono.
And there's a little bit of pressure there from the certainly pressure from the Great Britain defense, but that's a catch that has to be made.
Yeah. Fresnel with the disc, tacking upwind. Guibert reaches all the way across the field, not enough power, going upwind. I think Gale thought he had a block there, but Takahashi looks to be calling a foul on the throw. Both teams really struggling with the wind.
Absolutely, and it will be really interesting to see. You know, we started the game with a bit of a crosswind. Now it feels like it's turning a little bit to an angled wind, and this might really turn into an upwind downwind affair, which actually I think would even make it a bit easier for these throwers to size up the direction of the wind and be able to throw with it. Right now when it's coming across those bleachers, like we spoke about before, I think it's really swirly down
so
on the field.
unpredictable. Okay. Sasakawa with the disc. Genshima pushed all the way back to midfield. Sasakawa. Very active marks from Great Britain. Hammer across the field. Kurono this time makes no mistake. Takahashi. Sasakawa. Abe. Back to Sasakawa. Really controlling the offense here for the Japanese. Kurono,
And Japan
this time
puts
he
in a
makes
break.
sure. That hammer by Sasakawa was spectacular.
Wow. Man, when he released that, I didn't think I had a chance at first. And then it's sailing, you know, high enough that it's over the stack, but flat enough.
So that it would just go and sit.
Right, absolutely. I mean, both incredible vision to even see that play develop. And, I mean, that is an incredibly saucy throw.
More than that, just the guts to throw that thing across the field in a swirling wind like this.
Absolutely. And it's clear that, you know, the Japan offense there is really trying to dig in and play incredibly fundamentally sound and get this point with their dump and their swing and their handler movement. I mean, that's just a ton of guts to throw that throw.
Great Britain offense is going to be going downwind here. We'll see a little bit more. I think they're going to be a little more comfortable going downwind. Going upwind, technically, they just didn't look comfortable throwing the kind of big throws that they're going to want to throw in their offense. Downwind, I expect we're going to see a little more ease and success from them.
And there right away is a big inside-out break, and GB's almost just off to the races.
Completely different offense here. Parslow, Scuber, Guibert. It's like watching a different team.
Completely. And really what made it happen, that first big break inside out
from
Furnell makes really, I mean, it opens everything up to allow the cutters to run downfield. And I think what they never got on the first possession was that one big 25 to 40 yard break, not even necessarily break throw, but break out throw.
Just to get past the first layer of the defense.
Get the offense started.
Yeah. But I think going upwind, Great Britain was really working against 8 defenders.
Yeah.
And they will have to find a way to adjust their offense going upwind. What's interesting is I think the Japanese handler offense is a fantastic offense to go upwind because it wants to throw little short leading passes that you can get to sit in the wind.
Absolutely.
But a big comeback cut offense going upwind, very difficult offense to run.
And oftentimes you give the other team, like we saw this morning, a short field.
Yes.
When you can't complete that first throw.
But you turn it around, the short handler offense is actually pretty hard to run downwind.
Yes.
So we'll see how the Japanese O squad does here. Tanaka picking it up. There are 2 Japanese players named Tanaka. This is Mizuho Tanaka. Looks off Kurono. Inside out to Kichikawa. Pick called. I'm not quite sure what happened there on that turnover.
I think stall was called. There was a little bit of an argument about it, and they came to an agreeable solution.
That was a fast stall.
That was a very fast stall. And that could have been a situation where the language barrier maybe facilitated that stall being very fast.
Dahl with the disc. Finds Bevan. Back to Dahl. Frazier goes inside out.
Foul called.
Clark with the disc. Bevan back in the dump. A horizontal stack from Great Britain here on the goal line. Bevan asks for the leading pass. Tough throw in this wind.
Yeah, especially on the flick side. That's just a really technically difficult throw.
Sasakawa. Takashi. Sasakawa again. Tanaka. Kurono. Finishes to Sameshima. Folks, we're going to take a brief break here, and we'll be back in time for the next point. Vin, you with me? Can you talk for a sec? Okay. And we're back here. Japan taking a 2-1 lead. Great Britain with a golden opportunity for an upwind break.
Did pretty well to kind of move, hit a couple of breaks on the inside out.
Some nice forehand inside outs.
Their handler movement was okay, and they just couldn't capitalize on a miscommunication, really.
I think Bevan really asked for more than Clark wanted to throw. He wanted Clark to throw him open. I'm not sure Clark was comfortable throwing it.
Tough throw on the flick side, too.
Yes.
In a strong wind, to get that touch forehand to go past the marker.
Particularly in a swirling wind.
That was really asking a lot of your thrower. I think they need to, from a handler set, think more about making that space with their legs.
Okay. We do see the zone from the Japanese. It's a really shifting zone. Not necessarily going to mark. Fresnel with the disc. Guibert. The zone collapses. Dathan. Dathan again. Nice blade to Guibert. Back to Dathan. Guibert. One of the really great things about this Japanese zone is how much noise it makes.
Absolutely.
That noise, it gets the throwers thinking about the defenders, which is exactly what you want when you're playing a zone.
And it brings your blood pressure up just a little bit, enough to make those throws kind of double clutch just a little bit.
Okay. Fresnel, though, finds the way through again. Parslow dumps to Dathan. Guibert. I know the stat sheet's not gonna credit that to Fresnel, but it should.
He was his own buster, absolutely.
Two great throws through the heart of the zone, into the second, maybe even third layer of the zone.
You know, I think Great Britain's offense there made a sort of a classic mistake in zone in general, but I think really in particular it can hurt with this Japanese zone, which is that they brought a lot of personnel towards the disc.
Yes.
At speed.
Yes.
And I think it's tempting as a thrower to see that person running through the cup and try and hit them with a dinker. And the Japanese are they're so quick, and they're able to move and cover those angles so quickly.
That's what they want you to do.
That's what they really want you to do, is they want your zone to collapse. And really, the throws that got Great Britain out of trouble were to the one or two people who were really not collapsing with the zone.
But I still think that the collapse gets those guys open.
Potentially.
Okay. 2-2. Tanaka. Ichikawa. Nice defense, but Takahashi sneaks one in on Jolyon Dahl. Tanaka. Weak side huck.
Wow.
Someshima.
Wow.
Showing the speed.
Wow. I mean, that's an incredible throw to an incredibly speedy defender, covered really pretty well by Great Britain, and that throw just drops in on the weak side. Really, really well done. And one of the keys, I think, to the way, just like you were saying, that kind of dink, dink, dink strike Japanese offense, one of the big keys there is they're a team that very rarely strikes on the strong side.
Yes.
They love to strike on that weak side, and we saw it right there, a pretty textbook way that the Japanese men's team hurts you.
Right. Tanaka catches it going up the line. His mark is very late, giving him a chance to throw it to the weak side. And Someshima is basically right in front of him as he initiates his cut and runs away immediately to the weak side.
And with the kind of speed that Sumishima has, that's a very difficult situation to defend.
3-2 Japan. Guibert picking it up. Horizontal stack for the British. Genshima poaches. Comes back to his man Furnell. Guibert. Forward.
Might have felt the pressure there.
Big mistake by Brooks. Wide open. Stops running. But a short throw and a nice D by Stanley is going to get it back for Great Britain.
Yeah, that was a really quick series of events. You know, I think Japan able to capitalize on that. They're stealing a lot of momentum in 2 breaks.
Yes.
Taking, you know, a really early, pretty substantial lead in this half.
Furnell. McDowell. Furnell. McDowell. He's got a man wide open. 3-3.
You know, there's moments, Lou, where I look at some of the throws that are being thrown and those that aren't being thrown, and I kind of think it must be incredibly windy down there. And then there's moments where on that last huck to Sumishima and that huck right there by GB that it feels like they're not feeling it at all. I mean, that, you know, given the situation down there and what we believe the current wind position and speed to be, that was a big throw.
Part of it is, though, Japan is playing that saggy D on the handlers to try to contain the comeback cuts of Great Britain. When McDowell catches it, his marker doesn't give that nice bit of energy you want to see to close down the space and get the mark on. McDowell's able to wind up, make that throw with absolutely no pressure from his marker. And he's got Ford. Ford's got 5-6 steps.
Yeah, Ford had tons of room there. But still an excellent throw.
Yes.
Got him to the end zone. Didn't leave him out to dry on the warning track. Great work, GB.
3-3. It's a forced backhand from Great Britain. Takahashi goes to the ground to get it. Kichikawa.
Travel called.
Travel called. It's going to come right back in play. There's no stoppage on travel under whiff diff rules. Kichikawa. Takahashi. Sumishima finds Kamimura. A floater. Too much size. Too much size for Kurono.
McCarty got way up over the top there.
Yes.
To get that D. I don't think Kimono even saw him on the backside and was backing away to try and get position to come down with that.
Yes. He was playing his man.
He was playing
no
his
idea
man.
that McCartney was back there.
Right over the top.
Okay. McCartney with the disc. Interesting defense from Japan. No mark. Closes out now. Harris. McCartney. Kelly. He's going to call foul on Tanaka. Kelly with the disc. Guarded by Sasakawa. No mark.
Interestingly, GB is overloading the strong side with really not a lot of movement. I'm surprised.
I think the oddity of the way the Japanese marker is sometimes not marking, sometimes marking, is causing just a little bit of hesitancy. Kelly comes up with a lucky break, and Bevan's going to give it right back. Okay, Japan going downwind. Tanaka walking very slowly to pick it up. Kichikawa and Takahashi set wide as handlers. Interestingly, the Japanese have 4 handlers in here right now. Kichikawa, Takahashi, Tanaka, Sasakawa. Run the field really nicely. It's going to hang, but it does finally come down to Kurono.
Goal Japan.
4-3.
You know, when Japan is throwing this 1-2 quick offense and really running both laterally and down the field, it's so hard for the defense to recover unless they're really just working. Like, they need to be working their hardest to catch up with not the guy who's about to catch the disc or the guy who caught the disc, but the 4th one down the field.
Yes.
You know they're just going to want to go boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. And if you're not really on your horse to go get that 4th, 5th, 6th throw down the field, if you're just going to jog with them, they're going to burn you all the way into the end zone.
I also am looking at this backhand force from Great Britain, and the Japanese are so comfortable in their offense throwing those little backhands. I'd like to see them try to make the same cuts and the same throws throwing forehands.
Yeah. I think a lot of people make the mistake of assuming because of their quickness that the Japanese throwers really want to hurt you with the inside-out forehand.
But it's a slower throw.
But it is a slower throw in this case.
No mark on Furnell. Patient, takes forward, back to Furnell. Forward. Forward. Furnell. Forward. Furnell. Forward. 2 of them just kind of chipping away yard by yard. Transition call comes from the Japanese as Datham picks it up on the sideline. Furnell's open and calls for it, but Ford's going up the line. He goes over the top. Too much separation there. Easy goal for Parslow.
Another great throw by Ford.
Yeah.
You know, that was a hammer that was low the whole way, not a lot of blade to it.
Yes.
Not a lot of opportunity for the wind to pick it up and take it away.
He didn't want to throw it.
You think he double clutched it? And
yeah, I mean, I think he looked, he saw Parslow. He had another receiver there as well. Tons of separation. And he's like, oh, it's open. He thought, boy, it's windy. I don't want to throw this. And then even as he double clutched it,
threw a great throw.
Well,
Or,
Parslow had 15 steps.
Absolutely.
And it gave Ford the time to really just wind up, make sure.
I think
I
another
still
part.
don't think he wanted to throw it.
Well, I think another thing he could have been looking at is that guy is so open. Wait,
am I missing somebody?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Right.
But saw the opening, threw a great throw. Goal, Great Britain.
Strange defense from the Japanese.
Really strange. Like, it's not putting any pressure on the backfield at all.
When I've seen teams in the past play no marking defenses, they can be effective, but they require the middle of your defense to exert incredible energy because there is no pressure on the disc. And I never saw that from the Japanese. It's just casual the whole way. Kichikawa. Sasakawa. Tanaka. Kichikawa. Sasakawa. The British playing their own version of junk.
Oof.
Kurono
Wow.
gets shadow blocked. Great bid by Penny.
I think he was
Just
really
enough for McCartney. Nice body by Frazier with the disc. Throws a little short and dropped. Japanese quickly the other way. Kamimura, Sasakawa, Kichikawa.
great grab there.
By Sumeshima. Ichikawa, Tanaka. Gets some patience, wants the little flip. Takashi. Lovely little touch pass to Kurono. Kurono's tearing him up right now.
Yeah. Kurono and Sameshima really is doing a lot of what he wants to do downfield. He's able to, you know, he's really been attacking Great Britain smartly in the soft spots in their defense. So he's open for that sort of soft backhand, or sorry, backside huck. And he's open for the big inside out. He's getting a lot of yards into really smart positions that allow Japan's offense to really move at the clip that it wants to move.
I think the Japanese are playing 4 handlers.
They're definitely taking, I mean, yeah.
Great catch by Sameshima. But never in doubt.
No, never in doubt, I think.
You know, as soon as Sasakawa throws that, Sameshima's, he knows how that play's going to end.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, great players of his caliber, they make that catch.
Yeah. 5-4 Japan. Kibert. 2-2 set from Great Britain. Ollie Gordon goes inside out. Nose reads it the whole way. Tanaka just gives it right back. That's Tanaka Katsunori. Hate to see a great D like that wasted.
And, you know, we've seen that a few times now this game. I'm not sure if it's nerves or the wind, but by both teams, really. Getting a nice D, giving it right back.
And some discussion. And Great Britain's going to give it up. Okay, second chance for a break. What would be a 2-goal lead for Japan. Tanaka Katsunori going to pick up the disc. Flanked by Nose and Nakamoto. Sort of a curving C stack from the Japanese. Poached all over the place by the British. But they do stick with the backhand force. Shiba. Ito. In trouble. Finds Nakamoto. Too far for Kusano.
Call on the play.
Yep. I think probably a foul on the throw by Nakamoto. No discussion from Furnell. Yeah, you can see the hand right there on the forearm on the release.
Nice tight D there by Brooks.
Ito. Pick called. I think we'll be coming back to Nose.
You know, this tight Great Britain handler defense is actually gaining some ground. I mean, they're able to really push that handler set back. I wonder if this is a situation where we might see that 4th handler come back for Japan.
Nakamoto. Nose. Tanaka. Nose. Furuzawa for the goal.
And that's another break for Japan. I think Great Britain really needs to gather themselves. They're not playing poorly by any means.
But that backhand, it's just...
And they've done some great things on offense and on defense. It's just a few somewhat minor mistakes that keep adding up, and Japan's capitalizing.
Yes. Japan is up 2 breaks. 6-4. Britain struggling with unforced errors. They're getting plenty of opportunities. Two or three opportunities per point, as both teams still struggling with the wind. They didn't call a timeout, though.
I'm actually a little surprised about that.
As am I.
I think as a coach or a captain in this situation, you'd really like to put a stop, just even a minor stop, to that sense of momentum coming from the Japanese sideline right now.
But they're going to send their O-line back out again to take another shot at it. The wind keeps changing. Sasakawa with the pull. If Guibert has touched this, they're going to have to play it from the back line, and they do. Takahashi.
Narrow miss on a Callahan.
Narrow miss on
there.
the Callahan. Furnell through the seam. Schumacher. Furnell. Schumacher and Furnell together just kind of leave that one in the dirt. Takahashi calls a timeout with the Japanese about 10 paces outside their own end zone with a chance to take a 7-4 lead. As these teams take a break and talk over their offenses and defensive strategies, we're going to take a break here on our end as well. Back with you in a moment. Great Britain here. You talked about structural difficulties on offense. I wonder if some of the weirdness of the way the Japanese are playing their zone defenses isn't causing sort of muddiness within the within the Great Britain offense, that they're not able to get the kind of clarity that a big lane offense would want because of the sort of the way the Japanese bleed back and forth between playing zone and man and poaching.
I think so, and it really comes down to one major point in my mind.
Sure.
And this is something I harp on teams that I coach and teams that I'm on. Great Britain, those cutters are watching the ball a lot. They're not clearing hard enough, and they're not getting to the spots that they need to be in early enough. I think because, just like you're saying, they're looking at something weird, and they want to figure it out, and so they're processing first and running second. And I think if Great Britain could actually
just
give itself a cleaner palette by getting to the positions that they need to be in quicker, instead of jogging to them while they're watching the field, that would actually allow that big running offense to work a little bit better, to have more space to run right through the weird stuff that Japan does.
Yes. And the Japanese are certainly giving them the chances.
Definitely.
They're not. The wind to some degree is causing both teams trouble. And the last 3 or 4 points, the Japanese have cleaned their game up, but they're not playing with the precision and the rate of conversion that we saw them play with earlier this week.
Definitely not. And, you know, little factors here and there, miscues, that kind of stuff will happen. I think if you're Great Britain here, you need to be a little bit more macro about some of the stuff that you can control. And running harder to your position is something you can really control.
Great Britain opts to play their O-line again. Furnell to Harris. And a drop by Schumacher in the middle of the field. That's going to be too far. Nakamoto makes a greatest attempt.
I think that's the third time I've seen one team donate and the other team give it back on the first throw.
Instantly, yes. Here's Nosei's throw and Nakamoto's attempt. Guibert. Great bid by Kusano.
I think Ford's calling a strip.
I think Ford's calling a strip. Kusano signals, yes, it was a strip. It's going to stay with forward. Tanaka poaching far off Stanley down on the weak side. Fresnel, Guibert. Aggressive mark on Guibert. And
Foul call.
Not liking, that's on Nakamoto. That's a total mistake on his part to not back off
After the initial contact.
after the initial contact. Guibert goes deep into a crowd. Schumacher,
Picks it out of nowhere.
all three defenders just kind of gave up on it. Schumacher, little loft to Gale. GB back on the board, 7-5.
And wow, did they need that? You
And
know, they're
it's almost like the Japanese were like, hey, they need this.
You take
Schumacher,
it.
please.
No, you take it. I think that was you know, I wouldn't call that a particularly well thrown throw. It kind of got up with a fair amount of edge on it, and I think it got hit by that swirling wind we've seen. Japan was reading it to go a little further or arch back the other way, and it just didn't do it. Heads up play.
Nice play by Schumacher. And a nice throw to finish to Gale. And I think in that play, and also some of the plays that we saw from New Zealand, this Japanese team, because of their height, is vulnerable to the jump ball. And against the two main teams that they're going to have to face to win, USA and Canada, they're going to have to, the way they're going to have to win that battle is with their own offense not turning it over.
Yeah, certainly. Those are going to be tough discs to come down with by this team.
Sumeshimo left wide open going deep. Kurono.
Which brings up a really excellent point.
Sure.
It isn't as though this Japanese team
Can't huck.
doesn't huck.
No, because they huck like crazy.
Incredibly well and often.
Yes.
They just pick spots, and I think Great Britain gets ambushed by this sometimes. They pick opportunities and spots that North American and Western teams often don't see.
Yes.
They're just not used to, as defenders, guarding that exact play.
That wasn't the case here.
That wasn't the case here. In this case, just an excellent run by Sumeshima. Again, a really fast and quick offensive cutter.
We have not seen from Great Britain any defensive looks other than backhand.
And I think personally that's a mistake. I can hear in your voice, Lou, that you think it's a mistake.
Absolutely, I do.
You know, we talked before the game with GB's coach,
Sean Scone.
Sean Scone, and he sort of mentioned that they had a bunch of different looks that they know. I'm surprised that we haven't seen any of those, especially given the lack of stops that we've gotten from GB.
Guibert goes deep right away to Ollie Gordon. No trouble for the big Brit. Genshim is there.
Absolutely.
But Gordon's able to go up strong, early. You like that from a big man, to put two hands on a disc.
You really do. And it's a common of, I mean, he is an athlete. He is a good runner. He can jump. But really what gets him to across that finish line is just height and length. Arm length right there,
Yes.
right over the top.
He's able to go right over Genshima, yeah.
Especially in windy conditions like this, it's not always wise to jump.
To jump.
So if you can play a position where, you know, you don't have to jump your highest jump, but you can use
both hands,
make it safe, and get up over your defender with your length, it's a lot safer way to reel that huck in.
8-6 Japan. It's an opportunity for them to take half, up 2 breaks. Yet to see a break from Great Britain. Big outside in pull. Looks like it's going to be force forehand. Tanaka dump to Kichikawa. Tanaka isolated out in space.
And Tanaka just made that look so easy.
And Sameshima made it look so easy.
Absolutely. Again, finding the sort of structural soft spot in the Great Britain defense.
Yeah. The cut,
finishing perfectly.
we see the end of Tanaka's cut there. Very unusual piece of offense from Japan. They ran a side stack. Instead of isolating the side stack cutter coming out of the stack, they isolate Tanaka coming from the handler position. He throws the dump, and then they isolate him out of the side stack.
And he almost, ran a football receiver. It's like he ran a button hook to get open for that.
Like he ran a flag route.
Totally.
Anyway, once he catches it there, unmarked.
Sameshima, again, totally open, using his quickness and speed, but also great smarts, game awareness, finds a soft spot wide open for the end zone strike.
Fantastic first half for Sameshima and the rest of the Japanese team. Despite the windy conditions, they are able to score on all their offensive possessions, break Great Britain twice, and at halftime, Team Japan is up 9-6 on Great Britain. Folks, take a short break. We'll be back with you in a moment. Welcome back to Next Gen's coverage of Team Japan versus Great Britain. Japan is up 9-6, having broken Great Britain twice. Chase, what did we see in the first half?
Well, we have seen a couple of really great things out of Great Britain. Here we see them not necessarily capitalizing with great throws, but they're using their big-time receivers to come down with discs over the top of the Japanese. They are having an element of success on D, but they really need to ramp up their pressure, especially on that handler offense for the Japanese.
Yeah. Kichikawa, I think, has had a great first half. But it's the receiver, Sameshima. Fantastic catches.
And like we spoke to before, he's a veteran on this team. He's really anchoring this team from an offensive sort of middle/deep position. And his combination of quickness and speed is just unmatchable as far as really what GB can bring to him as a defender.
They're going to bring size.
They're going to bring size, and if they can get some help from the markers to make some of those throws less perfect, they maybe have a shot. But his ability to see the soft spot in the defense, go there with pace, and the ability of the rest of the Japanese throwers to deliver to those spots is really remarkable.
Great Britain pulling here, down 9-6. Big nasty roll pull. And Tanaka will have to bring this in to the front cone. I like that pull.
I really like that pull, especially in this wind. You know, something we've seen this game, I think, no out-of-bounds pulls.
Yep.
A few teams have struggled with that, especially in this wind.
Yes.
And being able to land that big roller in and have it sail out of bounds gives your defense a great look.
Yep. And here finally is the junk defense from the Japanese. Very tight, scuba over the top to Takahashi. Kurono coming back to handle. Sameshima. Takahashi. Kichikawa. Trap sets. Kurono. Tanaka. Late bid on Kurono. This I think will be coming back to Kurono. Captain Sean Scone really feeling like he had the block there. I think Kurono
felt like it was still in his hand.
That's a tough one on the backhand. The disc's going to feel live while the thrower still feels like he has it.
Yeah.
Both guys are going to think they're in the right here. Just one of those gray areas in ultimate.
And the disc comes back.
Okay. Great Britain still in the trapping zone. Takahashi. Sameshima. And we hear the transition into man.
Great Britain still backhand
Tanaka.
on the transition.
A miscue.
And Great Britain's got an opportunity here.
For a break. They've got Jolyon Dahl going deep. There's a piece. Tanaka, Jolyon Dahl with a huge offhanded catch. They throw the floater back up to Dahl, but he'd broken his cutoff.
That's a tough
Miscue
break.
by Abrams. Kichikawa, Kurono, Tanaka. Floater to Sumeshima. GB goes up big and early. Sumeshima able to come down to it. Kichikawa, big weak hand blade to Kurono.
Timeout called.
Calls a foul on, calls timeout.
Calls timeout. He didn't have a lot really to look at. I think Japan might have even thought that on that blade, crossfield blade, that he'd gotten in the end zone, or should have been in the end zone, didn't really move to surround him.
And he didn't have much to look at. And folks, you at home are going to, as we're going to take a break, and you can check out a word from our sponsors. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Early in the second half of Japan versus Great Britain. Japan on offense, second opportunity. Great Britain with a great chance to start the half with a break. Jolyon Dahl makes an absolutely fantastic offhand catch. 2 passes later, though, they're going to turn it over on kind of a miscommunication between Jolyon and Abrams. And 2 hucks later, Kurono has the disc on the goal line, flanked by handlers Tanaka and Kichikawa. Takahashi's moved to the front of the stack. Want to keep our eyes on Sumeshima. He is second from the back of that vertical stack. See there, number 17. Japan does have 4 handlers in. Sumeshima to the cone. Tanaka, Kichikawa. Zone from the British. Scone on the mark. Takahashi, Tanaka, Tanaka, Takahashi. Takahashi calls foul and it's quickly checked in, swung back around to Kichikawa. Hammer over the top to Sumeshima. Make that Kamimura.
Goal Japan.
Great throw by Kichikawa.
Great throw. And an interesting call there, I think.
To play junk by the British.
Yeah, and you know, they got a couple of wins there. They got them to move the disc backwards. But the systematic error right there is where you get hurt.
Yeah.
The junk collapses around the handler set. People ball watch a little bit. A great counter movement by Japan to be able to hit it in the back corner.
If that junk is going to work, when they get it pinned in there on the sideline, they have Takahashi pinned in on the sideline, they can't let him throw that backhand out of the trap that easily.
Absolutely. You know, I would say, though, that was about the best defensive point I've seen from Great Britain so far. I think if they are going to get back in this game, they need to be able to have that kind of intensity on the rest of the way on their defensive line. And I do think that this Japan team is susceptible to giving a few more of those away on these kinds of miscues.
And to the long ball.
And to the long ball. I think Great Britain could definitely claw on back into this game, but it's going to take that kind of defense.
And it's going to take their offense converting going upwind.
100%.
Schumacher. Fresnel. Zone from the Japanese. Fresnel right through. Fresnel's been great for them against the Japanese zones. Dathan, Fresnel. Not much motion. Fresnel around and Dathan again. Japan tightening the screws.
Foul call.
Dathan calls the high count foul. Veteran move.
Veteran move. And again, I think he was bailed out a little bit by Ito there.
Yeah, the Ito can't give up the foul there. Yeah. Schumacher, defense drops off and then resets. Ford. Big dump back to Guibert. Fresnel, losing the ground they gained. Comes back to Ford. Fresnel. That backhand around by Fresnel is
Nice save by Ford.
He's just using it very well. Fresnel here again. Let's see if the mark adjusts to deal with that backhand. Goes inside out to Schumacher. Lefty to Fresnel. Dathan was already looking upfield when the disc got to him.
But
Fresnel,
foul called.
Interestingly, under the whiff diff rules, I think the Japanese have a legitimate argument for that to be a turnover. Continuation is such that if the receiver should have caught it anyway, it should stand as a turnover.
Yeah, that's true. A really notable difference from USAU where that wouldn't be taken into account.
But they go the USAU way. Great Britain maintains possession. Fresnel with the disc again. A little chippy about the contact from the Japanese. Finds Guibert. Guibert to Ford. Ford. Gale. Finally finds McDowell on the far side of the field wide open. Schumacher. Dathan. Oh, had McDowell wide open. Didn't see it.
Good
Ford.
patience.
Ford fights through to Fresnel, does a nice job towing the line. No mark. The zone slowly moves in and resets. Abe on the mark. Fresnel goes around, finds Gale. Boy, that around backhand was absolutely fantastic for Fresnel. The whole point.
The whole point.
Up to the game winner. Sells the backhand fake, catches Abe looking. Gale does a nice job with his feet to make sure he keeps it in and down.
You know, I really like his extension and his quickness on that backhand. It's not too far away from his pivot, but what he does really, really well is he snaps the wrist.
Yeah.
There is a ton of spin on that thing, and that's why it's not getting caught by this wind and going away.
Right. And the wind really has picked up here in the last point or so. It's turned to be much more of an upwind, downwind, so Great Britain will be pulling downwind with a chance to break.
And again, if they can bring the kind of defensive pressure and then make good on any turnovers they get from the Japanese, I think they could really be looking at maybe putting together a run towards the middle part of the second half.
I think the key for them defensively, if they choose to play junk here, is they have to reassign and reposition themselves as the Japanese are going to get some quick motion, and the zone has to reset and not let the Japanese run the whole way down the field.
Absolutely, and for Japan, it's really their motion that gets them open much better than their throws. Their throws are great, but it's their quickness with their feet that is getting breakthrows around this defense.
Kamimura to Takahashi. Big dump to Sasakawa. Kichikawa. Sasakawa. Kichikawa. Stanley comes in and lays a hit on Kichikawa.
Yeah, that was a late hit.
Sameshima. Kamimura Usually it's Takahashi to Kamimura. In this case, Kamimura comes in, finds Takahashi wide open in the end zone.
You know, I'm not totally sure that Great Britain was ready for Stanley to check that disc back in.
You think they got caught?
I think they got caught off-footed a little bit, expecting Stanley maybe to check with the defense before he tapped it in. He tapped it in a little bit quicker.
And just boom, boom.
And it was boom, boom, and they're gone.
Not a great defensive stand by Great Britain there.
No, they had the wind at their backs.
Too many backhands in a way. Going that way, forehand's a much tougher throw, and Japan was really able to throw almost all backhands, forehand here, there, but pretty consistently backhands going up the field.
Yeah. I think, you know, honestly, we're starting to see a little bit of a theme from the Japanese, which is they are very strong with their backhand, especially in close quarters. And I almost feel like that could be a strategical weakness that other teams aren't taking care of right now to try and force them forehand.
Japan plays man and forces a drop from Parslow, but then it floats up. Tanaka's called a foul on the throw. Nice defensive adjustment from Japan to play man. They force the drop on the pressured catch. Now they have the disc 20 yards out. Tanaka with the disc. Nakamoto, Tanaka, Arakawa. Drop by Nose.
You know, I think that's actually a little bit what I mean when I say that I think Japan in close quarters, clearly, their backhand is really deadly because that flick has to come off so quick in this wind. That's
Huge
just
huck
a
from
tough
Fresnel
catch.
right away. Ford out in front of everybody to get it. And he throws a huge crossfield scooper to Ollie Gordon. That might be the most spectacular swing pass we've seen all day.
You really wish it had been
Parslow
2 feet further into the end zone.
Little miscommunication. Japan with a second chance to break. Huge huck to Arakawa.
Travel called.
Huck to Arakawa's coming back. Nice throw. Not the most beautiful throw, but 100% catchable.
Absolutely, and coming in hot though. Arakawa got hit in the chest. I'm not sure he won't have a bruise in the morning.
So, Shiba with the disc, finds Tanaka. Shiba. Arakawa again open. I think there's going to be a pick call here. It's dropped. Great Britain disc. Fresnel taking his time getting to it. Tough catch, but one that Arakawa should make.
You know, in some circumstances, I would say that he got his hand on it.
Two hands on it.
Two hands on it, but that disc is moving so quick.
I think we're going to see a strip call here by Brooks. Nice 16 versus 16 matchup. Kusano versus Brooks, and nice D, nice catch. We're going to be checked in and going. Guibert.
Japan's going to call that one.
There's a poach and
down on the grass.
Gordon was wide open. Guibert
threw a bit of a worm burner.
Looked down from 80 yards away. We'll see what they decide on the field.
Ollie Gordon's hanging onto the disc for dear life, but he does send it back.
And I think Great Britain's fortunate to maintain possession there. This comes back to Guibert. Lots of space for Gordon. They're going to just hang it up to him. He misreads it. Nose's there to finish off the block. Tanaka with the disc. Shiba. Arakawa. Nakamoto. Shiba. Looking for Arakawa.
Wow.
Absolutely fantastic throw from Shiba.
That was an unbelievable hammer from Shiba.
And he's throwing to a 4'10" receiver guarded by a 6-footer.
He is, and I think that hammer was maybe 8 feet off the ground for the entirety of the distance of the throw. And I mean, technically, to put that much spin on a hammer, to get it to be flat like that across the wind, downwind, yes, but to hit that receiver right in the chest over the top of a bigger defender, that's just a really incredible throw.
Japan does get the break going downwind. They're now sitting on a 5-goal lead. They're up 12-7. Tough spot for Great Britain.
Tough spot for Great Britain. I think, you know,
not an impossible spot.
Not an impossible spot by any means, but they've got to get something done here. You know, we've seen glimmers.
Yeah.
Certainly of what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them put together a complete body of work over the course of 3, 4, 5 points yet.
In a way that they would need to do to challenge in this game.
To challenge in this game and further games in this tournament. You know, I mean, Japan's certainly top 3 seed, but there are other teams here, other European teams, certainly the Germans we saw this morning.
Australia's playing fantastic
Australia's
right now.
playing very well right now. I think they're, you know, if GB's going to challenge and try and meet the expectations that they've set for themselves, they're really going to have to put together a more complete body of work for 5, 6, 7 points in a row in a way that I haven't yet seen this game.
A lot of contact on the mark there between Dathan and the Japanese defender, but it is gonna, the pass is gonna stand. McDowell with a huge grab on a bit of a long swing. Finds Stanley. Schumacher. Wow, a great, powerful, strong cut from Ford.
He's a really impressive athlete.
He's played great today.
Good thrower. He has played great for GB. He's a good thrower. You can tell his mechanics are great. He's very comfortable with the disc. But you get him into open field like that.
In this case, this cut was won 30 yards before the catch when he used a little bit of quickness and a lot of power to get free from that Japanese defender. And then he's wide open going to the
He's
goal.
wide open. Thrower able to size it up. Throw with a little bit of touch, but really power that forehand in there for a goal.
What's the landscape look like in the Open Division after 3 days of play?
Well, Lou, as we've spoken to before, the top 3 teams from each pool.
So the top team from each, for A, B, and C. So Canada looking solid to win their pool. USA looking solid to win their pool. With this likely win for Japan, that would put them in control of their pool.
Those teams are going to power pools. I think the landscape gets a little more interesting, certainly in the bottom parts of each of those pools.
In Pool D, though, thought to be a little bit of a question mark with Australia and Sweden. Australia has really played
turned it
well
on.
since getting to Osaka. They're undefeated right now. We're looking at likely covering their game on Wednesday against the United States to win the power pool.
Yeah, and I think that could be a great matchup. Australia, again, losing a few of the big names, but they've really had some great players step up and fill those voids. They're playing great.
Back in play, Sasakawa on the sideline unmarked. Kichikawa, Sameshima, Tanaka. Japan moving fast, Kichikawa. Travel call is going to bring the disc back to Tanaka. Frazier on the mark. Right back to Kichikawa. Takahashi. Unbelievably quick goal for the Japanese. At no point did Great Britain
really challenge.
even get to stalling 3. You can see the goal to Takahashi there from Kichikawa. You know, after not seeing much of Kichikawa earlier this week in the New Zealand game, he's really stepped forward, I think, in this game and asserted himself as the best handler on the field for Japan.
Yeah, and, you know,
they have a ton
I
of
agree
weapons
with
as
that,
handlers.
right, but
Sure.
it would be hard to pick, and I think really that speaks to some of the depth
that they have.
Specifically that position.
Yeah. Sasakawa, Tanaka.
Absolutely.
So Japan up 13-8. There's still some questions, Chase, about what other teams might make it into power pools. I know Colombia is really struggling right now. It does look like, barring some 3-way ties, Philippines, I think, are probably going to take the 3rd spot out of Pool A. Finland looking like they're going to be the 2 seed out of that pool. Short pull from Japan. Guibert walking slowly to pick it up. Zone set from Japan. Finds Ford on the sideline. Guibert. Furnell. Guibert. Great shot through the Parslow. Japan still in the zone. Parslow. Brooks. Parslow. Brooks still open. The Japanese zone leaving that little chip open, then shutting it down. Great throw by Brooks to Schumacher. Schumacher to Ford in space. Over the top to Gordon. Saito gets I think he got the tiniest little piece of it. We see the hammer from Ford. The bid from Saito, I think he got just enough to throw Ollie Gordon off.
That was a big looking throw from Ford.
Okay. The veteran Miyabe walking to pick it up and bring it into play. Miyabe's been with Team Japan for almost a decade. Played in the 2004 and 2008 campaigns. Zone defense from the Brits. Miyabe. Blocked by Parslow. Looking for Matsuno Masahiro, his first minutes that we've seen the Japanese superstar play this tournament.
Really heads up D there by
Nice
Ito.
D by Ito. Bit of a forced choice by Guibert.
This corner appears to be really difficult to get out of for either team.
Miyabe with the disc. Ooh, Schumacher delivers the hit.
Some lumber and some theatrics,
yeah,
I think.
some nice acting there by Abe. Matsuno. Saito. Travel call Matsuno. I think that is the lefty travel call. You know, just lefties, their footwork.
Yeah,
just
where are your feet?
Where are your feet
you
going?
Can't be there.
I don't think it's a travel, but gets called for it anyway. Foul in the throw, but it's going to stand to Abe. A lot of contact in there between Abe and Parslow defending the dump.
I'm wondering if, Parslow got him on the foot.
I think he just stepped on his foot, yeah. Yeah, Abe rubbing that spot. Disc going to come in. Abe finds Mizuno underneath. Another big blow from Parslow. Mizuno goes around. Disc going to pop up. Turnover for Mizuno. Japan looks to be playing zone as Mizuno immediately drops off deep. Furnell, Brooks. Brooks, Parslow, Furnell, Patient, Parslow, hammer to Schumacher. Bid from Mizuno, lots, big collision there, but Schumacher too big, too strong. Mizuno comes in late.
Yeah, Mizuno kind of went like he was going to go for it and just
at the last
it's almost like he
realized.
knew he was going to get crushed if he went hard to that one.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting timing, I think, to bring him in the game.
You're up 13-8. You're on defense.
The only thing I can think of is they're trying to get him a few reps, get him comfortable, and then shut him down just in preparation for tomorrow's slate of games.
I can't help but think that he must be injured in some way, and in an unusual way. You know, maybe
he's
he
not
has
moving poorly.
No, maybe he has an injury to his throwing arm, or maybe.
But you can see just instantly, you know, 2-3 touches only that point on offense, and an uncharacteristic throwing error.
Yeah. They still look to him as a leader. And we were watching the Japanese team at halftime. It's he, not Coach Tateora, who's doing all the talking. Tanaka with the disc. Kurono on the sideline makes a great catch in front of the diving Jolyon Dahl. There's that weak side hook, but this time it is too low. Dathan pumps it to Dahl. Dahl fighting off his defender.
And there's a little life out of Great Britain.
There's a little life, a break to bring within 3. That is a great catch by Dahl. He knows he's got the speedy chrono on his back. Dahl's actually going to slow up here a step, fend off chrono, and then just go out and get it.
And interesting, we talked to this before, a pancake layout catch.
So unfundamental.
So unfundamental. And, you know, I'll take Jolyon making that catch.
I think part of that,
9
though,
times out of 10, but
typically you don't make that pancake catch because unless you're willing to pay the physical price to your shoulders, there's such a high likelihood of the disc popping out. I think in this case what we're seeing, both from Arakawa when he was making his pancake catches and Dahl, it's the wind.
Yeah.
As veteran receivers, they know they can go
2 hands on it.
They want to make sure, even if they're going to pay a physical price to do so.
Great grab by Jolyon Dahl.
Yeah, and a great huck by Dathan. Okay. 13-10. Great Britain for the break going downwind. Kichikawa. Kurono. Takashi. Kurono. Sumeshima. Nice bid on the sideline. Sasakawa. Looks off Tanaka, then finally goes to him. Sasakawa. Kichikawa. Nice D from Great Britain. Sumeshima? No, Sasakawa. And they short
GB
the
gets
dump.
a turn.
Right away on the fast break huck for the opportunity.
Oh!
And an incredible trailing edge catch by Frazier. Absolutely fantastic piece of work.
And that one's going to come back.
And is there a travel call?
I think there was a travel call.
Tanaka with the travel call.
That was such a heads-up play by Frazier, not to go overhanded, but to catch it trailing edge. I think he felt, and I actually agree with him.
It's running away too fast.
It's running away too fast, and he's going to mack it out of range if he goes overhanded.
I think we're going to see McCartney just do it again.
Frazier certainly has steps going away.
Steps. I think this is the lefty travel call.
Oof.
Frazier, the big lefty.
That is rough.
I mean, I think McCartney and Tanaka can talk about it all they want, but we're going to have to do this one again.
Minds aren't going to get changed
no.
here.
So coming in on 0. He's also got Smith wide open for 5 yards if he wants to take it. And the Japanese just close everything out as fast as they can. Frazier actually comes back under to get it. On the doorstep. Dahl bobbles and pulls it in.
I think travel was called.
Anderson with the disc.
I don't like how loose GB is here.
And
they're going to take a timeout and talk about it.
Great decision to call a timeout there. I know McCartney was calling for it even before the dump to Dahl. Huge point for GB. They can pull within 2 here if they can seal this downwind break. We're going to take a break as well. Back in a moment. Japan 13, Great Britain 10. Anderson with a chance to break. Goes high to McCartney. 13-11 Great Britain. Or I'm sorry, 13-11 Japan. Great Britain with the break. Great setup there by Great Britain. They get their big receiver McCartney in space. Anderson, not a beautiful throw, but all he has to do is get it around his mark out there where only McCartney's going to be able to get it.
And Great Britain does really well, takes a timeout, gets themselves set, makes good on that gift from Japan in the middle of the field. And now we're looking at a little bit more of a tight game, Lou.
Really close game. This looked like it was going to be a blowout for Japan there when they were up 5.
I was starting to really look, queue up and start looking forward to the results of what this game would mean for the pool. And Great Britain's putting on a fight.
Credit some great composure from a young British team.
Absolutely, and really, it came down to a couple of big plays from some of their big playmakers.
Great Britain pulling. Tanaka. Kichikawa. Tanaka. Sumeshima goes weak side huck. Leaves it short. Bevan with the D. Penny back to Scone.
Oof.
Harris drops it up high. Kichikawa. Floater. Kamimura, I think,
Felt
could
the
hear
footsteps.
those big footsteps coming from Penny. Flinched a little at the last minute.
Great Britain's going to get another opportunity. You know, I think on the first one they made it a little too hard for themselves, honestly. Going upwind here, you're fired up, you have some big playmakers on the field. I might like to see them take a shot, a calculated risk, but take a shot deep.
Tight formation. Parslow. Bevan. Penny holds on this time. Scone hangs it up. Macked. Brought down by Kamimura. Really an unfortunate mistake there for Great Britain. Kichikawa. Kamimura leaves it too far for Kichikawa. Parslow picks it up. Abrams calls a timeout. Second goal line timeout. Second opportunity for a break for Great Britain. They can get an upwinder here.
Wow.
And pull within one.
I mean, this is an incredible comeback. There's not a lot to say about it. And Great Britain is really riding momentum and some big plays. You know, we saw a misfire there on the shot to the end zone, but the one before, the Huck going up line from Harris, they're coming down with stuff.
Yes.
You know, I think a young team like this, they need to be riding that kind of momentum. I like taking shots. Some of them aren't the best, but they're coming down with them.
One thing about them is they don't seem conventionally like the best, but because of the size advantage, they're great choices.
You know, and we did see this a little bit earlier in the tournament when New Zealand played Japan, where New Zealand had a lot of good opportunities and scores that came off kind of fluffy deep throws that they just come down with.
The Brits are also kind of proving us wrong about the backhand force. They've stuck with it and really been able to generate some turnovers. So Abrams with the disc, vertical stack. I think we're going to look at a bit of a junk defense here from the Japanese. It's going to hinge on how well Sasakawa was able to play the front. Scone. Abrams. Scone. Junk from the Japanese. Scone's going to, I think he's calling a fast count on Takahashi.
That was a really interesting set from the Japanese. It almost went from what looked like a poachy man on a stack, and it devolved into a really loose junk up front.
Scone goes around. There it is.
Harris for the goal.
Break to Harris. Great job by the captain coach for Great Britain.
He has a lot of poise.
Penny. He's pumped.
And GB is fired up right now.
13-12. Japan sitting on a 1-goal lead on offense.
And you can see their entire team is out on the field trying to fire this offensive team up. You know, I think we've seen a little bit of lackluster play from the Japanese side for the last few points. In particular, that brilliant handler motion that we've seen has kind of disappeared. And the steady hand that we have seen from guys like Tanaka has turned into they've coughed up a couple turnovers.
Yeah.
And I think credit to Great Britain, they're making good on the turnovers that Japan has given them. That was something they couldn't do earlier in this game, and it's really turned around.
They've brought intensity on D, and they're helping, and they're attacking the disc with a lot of ferocity. That's generating the turnovers. Tanaka. Takashi. Sasakawa. Handler heavy lineup for the Japanese. Tanaka. Takahashi, handler, handler, handler. Sameshima calls for it, doesn't get it. Tanaka, well poached by the British, but Tanaka's got it on the goal line. Slows it down.
And another misfire.
Just a little casual flip from Tanaka to Sasakawa. He left it a little short on the throw. Sasakawa drops it.
I'm feeling like this might be nerves a little bit by the younger Japanese players who maybe haven't been in this kind of pressure position before.
Smith to Parslow. Calls a foul. Parslow didn't have much. Jolyon Dahl pushing out hard. Frazier.
Foul called.
Yep. A little bit of frustration there maybe from Tanaka.
I think the GB handler set needs to give a little more space and stop letting Japan poach up front.
I think we're going to see a strip call there, and I also think there's a foul on Kurono on the initial throw as well. I think Sasakawa was going to argue, but pretty...
It looked...
So here we're going to see the throw. Definitely a foul on Kurono. Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
It is going to come back. McCartney with the disc. Finds Smith.
And they're
Smith
going to
goes
go
big to Dahl.
Oh.
Sameshima making a huge block.
A really big D.
Bit of a mistake, I think, on the throw to Dahl. They
Keeping
left it
low.
down where Sameshima was able to get it. They put that up 10, 11 feet. That's advantage Dahl.
Absolutely.
Tanaka taking a long, slow walk to pick up the disc.
I think Japan here as a team clearly
feeling the pressure.
Feeling the pressure, and Tanaka feeling the need to really slow down. I mean, you can see in his long saunter.
He's trying to find a way to get his team mentally to where they need to be to change the rhythm of this game, because right now the rhythm is not in the favor of the Japanese.
No, it's frantic, and that's definitely advantage GB.
Fronting from the Brits, back to Tanaka. Sasakawa. Inside to Tanaka. Looks off the bump. Kurono.
Travel called.
Travel called on Kamimura. Bevan on the mark. Kurono. Sasakawa. Tanaka. Kurono. Pause in the game. Kurono. Flip to Sasakawa. Bevan's not able to get there in time to help. Japan stares down the pressure. Banks won 14-12. Kurono finds Sasakawa.
You know, Japan handlers, when they're at their best, one of the things that they do really, really, really well is have great footwork with the disc. Their ability to pivot and fake, and not only that, but use their body, especially with that backhand force, to seal off defenders.
To seal off
the marker.
To get the throw they want.
To get the throw they want is really pretty phenomenal. And when Great Britain has been able to force them out of that kind of heavy stance with great footwork and stand up a little bit more, they've really thrown a couple of those more like flip throws
Yes.
that have caused turnovers. I'm not sure if you're Great Britain how you make them do that exactly.
Right.
But when it happens,
I
they've
think
had success.
Intensity and pressure as best you can is the key.
Yeah, get them uncomfortable.
14-12 for Japan. Schumacher. Forward to Dathan. Dathan drops it. Fresnel on the mark. Little touch foul, I think, on Fresnel there. Tanaka. Katsunori. Ito with the drop. Dathan. McCartney. Dathan. Everyone misses. Comes to Parslow, who's going to put it out for Schumacher.
And he
Can
might
he
get
get
there.
there?
No.
Not quite enough sit on it. Tanaka in pursuit defensively. I think a bit excited from Parslow. You see it floats over 1, 2, 3. Parslow gets it. See Schumacher.
You know, I think even if he pauses for a half second there, at that point that window is closed.
Yes. But, and also Tanaka was there.
And Tanaka is, you're right, that's why the window is closing.
Yeah.
Tanaka saw the cut coming from the weak side, closed in fast.
Side stack from Japan. Nose bringing it up, marked by Fresnel. Dathan dancing in the lane. Furuzawa drops it. Fresnel unmarked. Ford. McCartney. Parslow. Calls the foul. Smart foul call. A lot of confusion from the Brits there. Things are settled. Ford poached wide open.
Japan very, very poachy right now, especially up front with the handlers.
Dathan. Very physical D from Japan. Blade to Guibert. Too far from Dathan.
And you know, the confusion provided by the combined physical marking, especially right away by
And
Japan.
the poaching.
And the poaching up front. I mean, Japan left.
I think Dathan was thinking the right thing, was to find the open guy and go over the top, but it's not the right. It's not the right guy. Not that Guibert's not the right guy, because he could be. It's just that he wasn't that open.
Yeah, situationally,
Yes.
that's a tough one.
Okay. So disc is rolled very far out of bounds, and Tanaka Katsunori taking the long, slow walk. A little bit of confusion from the Japanese. There are two Tanakas, Tanaka being sort of a Smith-like name in Japan. This Tanaka Katsunori, has played primarily on defense. Tanaka Mizuho has played primarily on offense. Marked by Guibert.
Similar approach by this Tanaka to take a very long time to check the disc in, almost saying to his players, let's slow down, let's be easy, let's get this one.
Strip call, it's gonna come checked back in. Fresnel with a tough mark. And another turn, trying to throw a forehand break. Another goal line possession for GB. They're going to take their time here. McCartney, interestingly, big receiver picking it up. It's going to go around. Parslow not quite able to get his foot down and in.
Oh,
Tries to thread the needle. Great D by Cusano. Immediate huck. McCartney with the chance to return the block.
and he gets it.
Big man getting up big. I like the choice from Abe. He should throw that with the separation that Arakawa has. He just
Shorted it a little bit.
Yes. And McCartney made a
great play.
Fantastic block.
No question.
That's the intensity GB needs here. A lot of the other Japanese teams filling in the stands here late in this game. Hear them chanting defense for their countrymen. Guibert gets it, throws it right to Abe. The veteran finds Arakawa. Cusano. Abe. Abe goes across the field. And another block. Sooner or later, Chase, one of these teams is going to have to score.
Guibert throws a kind of a tough turnover.
Yep. And then Abe comes right back and returns the favor.
Twice in a row, we've seen the player who throws a turnover getting back and getting a D.
Yeah.
And I think that urgency from
Three
Great
times
Britain,
actually, because Abe got the D.
Absolutely. Great to see that kind of urgency,
Nice
especially out of
backhand
GB
around.
here.
Nice backhand round from Furnell to Parslow, back to Furnell. Schumacher not able to hold on to it on the sideline. Ito. Abe around. Lots of space here for Cusano. Japan finally wins the war of attrition. 15-12 Japan. Abe is able to get around Parslow's mark. Cusano for the goal. Still a long way from the cap here, folks.
Almost 20 minutes, and I think, you know, unfortunately, Great Britain here is kind of, you know, maybe they're finding their rhythm on the way back to the line, but they're walking. Not that that is necessarily anything for a team, but Great Britain is, you know, I mean, they're feeding right now off of really intense energy, and even when their D team doesn't score, you'd love to see them realize that that's kind of a victory. We're late in this game, and it's important to capitalize, but making the Japan offense grind like that is going to be important for cashing in, maybe on the point after this.
Guibert walking to pick it up. Very short pull from Japan. Furnell with the disc. Gale. Furnell. Gale. Furnell. Gale. Ford. Defense tightens for Japan. Deep trap, it's going to send it back to Ford. Nice defense by Japan, but Ford too big. Guibert. Furnell. 15-13, Great Britain. And I misspoke before. We should be in the cap situation now. Likely game straight to 17.
And being able to have that fairly flawless offensive point by Great Britain has now given them an opportunity to get their D back on the field and be able to hopefully give Japan another run for their money, you know, in this kind of excited, fast-paced game. I think, again, when Great Britain can bring that kind of intensity, especially against the handlers with their handler defense, it just puts Japan in an uncomfortable situation. And given that and the kind of swirling wind we're seeing, Japan has kind of coughed it up a little bit. I think we're definitely down to the wire, though. And if Japan coughs it up, Great Britain's going to need to capitalize on this point. On this possession.
Okay, 4 handler set from Japan. Tanaka, Kichikawa. Sameshima underneath. Parlow on the mark. Sasakawa works out and back under. Takashi finds Tanaka. Kurono looks weak side. There's a collision in the middle of the field between Parlow and Sameshima. Kurono marked by Dahl. Kurono goes to Tanaka. Takahashi, again a nice bid by Penny. Sasakawa. Tanaka. Little slowdown from the Japanese offense. Kichikawa. Tanaka.
And the bottom just drops out of it.
Bottom drops out. Unexpectedly, and Tanaka not able to make a late adjustment. Great Britain with a chance to pull within 1. Anderson comes off with an injury. Interesting sub-choice. Do you bring in? And they do. They go to their main thrower, Fresnel. I think that's absolutely the correct decision at this point in the game. You need to score this point. You've got the ball. Bring in your best thrower.
And I think what he brings here is an ability not, you know, I mean, he can certainly throw it going away from the disc, but an ability to get the disc with his quick speed, just like that, and find both soft spots underneath and away. And that's really where GB's kind of struggled.
Dahl turns it, gets it, and then in a absolutely classic sweet and sour play, Jolyon Dahl makes a absolutely huge catch on the MAC disc and then throws it away immediately to Harris.
A little bit of excitement there, but we are coming back on a travel call 2 throws prior. Great Britain's so lucky there to hang on to possession.
Absolutely. Comes all the way back to Clark. So after a lot of spectacular action, huge catch by Jolyon Dahl. Laser forehand, too far for Penny. Clark's going to maintain possession. Sameshima on the mark. Fresnel. Bevan. Penny. Abram. Foul on Sasakawa. Penny. Dahl lets Kurono get around him for the block. Takashi. Kichikawa. Sasakawa. Kamimura. Travel call comes right back in play.
Travel called again.
There should be no stoppage on a travel call there. Kamimura can just come right back and check it in. Kichikawa, backhand flip.
Goal Japan.
And folks, that's game. Very uncharacteristic mistake by the very veteran Jolyon Dahl. Lets Kurono get around him for the block. And then Japan gets in their end zone set. They find the nice little flip to Kurono for the goal. I still am really impressed with this Great Britain team.
Yeah, yes and no, Lou. You know, their ability, and I think what you're impressed with, their ability to ride the momentum, change their game plan, and really win the ugly game, I think was astounding and the key to their comeback.
That's not what I'm impressed by.
All right. I was impressed by their ability to sort of find some poise, dig in, and go and really, you know, go to what lots would classify as a little bit of an uglier brand of Ultimate, which is put great deep pressure on, capitalize on some of Japan's mistakes.
And your size. But what impressed me the most about them is that very young team.
Yeah.
In a huge high-pressure situation, they go down 5 and bring it all the way back within 1 and even have the disc to tie. Now, that youth gets the better of them, and they let it slip away. They let Japan get a break back, and Japan eventually, you know, has gone on here to win by 3. But Great Britain has put themselves in the conversation of semifinal contenders.
Certainly.
You know, I think if you are Australia, you are feeling great about your chances of making the semis, and now looking at this Great Britain team might make you a little nervous.
Yeah, and you know, certainly Great Britain definitely in that conversation, especially after today. And definitely if they can bring this kind of momentum into their future tournament results. Australia definitely in that conversation. I think a few other of the top European teams also in that conversation. And what will be interesting is that what worked today for Great Britain really might not work against the Aussies. Really
Correct.
Might not work against some of the other European teams, but was very effective here. And again,
you know who's going to notice that? Canada and USA.
Yeah.
They're going to look at what Great Britain did with their deep game against the Japanese, and I think Revolver is going to do what they want to do. But I think the Canadians are really excellent at adapting their game to circumstances, and they're going to say, wow, a punishing physical defensive game and an opportunistic deep game.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You know, on the other side of the disc, credit Japan, and in particular Japan's veterans, in figuring out how to slow down Great Britain's momentum enough.
Tanaka, number 2, Tanaka really took over late in the game to make sure that they were scoring.
And, you know, yeah, they saw a big run from a taller group of players who came down with some 50-50 balls. They did make some mistakes, but they also had the poise to be able to pull it out in the end, get the Ds where they really needed to, and score nice and easily to close the game out. I think that's a victory for Japan in kind of ugly circumstances.
Yes.
In front of a home crowd moving forward. I think they're excited to escape this one unscathed.
But worried about
how they're going to deal with that exact circumstance.
I think they've known all along about the size issue.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're vulnerable to teams just throwing basically kind of floaty hucks against them. What they're going to worry about when they look back at this tape is how much they turned it over, particularly in their handler set. If they're going to win this tournament, that part of their game, which should be a strength, has to be perfect.
Yeah. I think we'll surely see that veteran group come together between now and tomorrow, figure some things out. And I can only imagine Japan, again, feeling a lot of pressure from the home turf, with a big supporting crowd, is going to come back stronger from this.
Let's talk players of the game.
All right. I'm a little bit of a homer. I really loved the way Jolyon Dahl brought some energy, came up with some big grabs. He made some mistakes.
And I'm going to just take it right here and say, I'm going with Kurono as for the Japanese. He was absolutely dominant, both as a handler and as a cutter in the second half, and got a big block on
Jolyon Dahl.
game point. For Great Britain, though, I think they would have been nowhere without Furnell. We talked about the size and their hucking. They spread those hucks out, but without his steady presence behind the disc, they don't have a chance at all. Well, Chase, we're going to be off tomorrow. We are coming back on Wednesday. In the morning, we're going to feature a game from the women's division, Germany versus New Zealand. And then in the afternoon, we're going to come up with a power pool matchup. Almost certainly going to be Team USA versus Australia. But check our website, NGNultimate.com, for the actual game time and game listing. For everybody here at NGN Networks, I'm Lou.
I'm Chase.
Thanks for listening. Have a great evening.